Hey, Mike, back here with Canadian Musician right now at the Strut Entertainment offices downtown Toronto with me. Haven't seen you in a couple years, man. I'm looking forward to catching up, but of course, Luke Austin. Luke, man, how you doing today?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for coming by.
No, absolutely. And so I guess we'll do a bit of looking back, a bit of looking forward, but may as well start it off in the present. New single is out today called Hard Times. Before we get into, I know you worked with John Angus MacDonald from the Trues on it and that, but I guess to take us back to the beginning of the song, and I love it. It's a really soulful track. What was the, I guess, inspiration from it, or essentially how did the song come about and develop?
Mm-hmm. Well, I met John Angus, and we had, I guess we kind of hit it off. We had a mutual publicist, and I think we both had the same values in music. Like, we both really liked music that meant something. Yeah. So I guess we stayed in touch, and eventually I'd send him song demos just to get his thoughts on things, and we decided we were going to work together on something, and then I sent him a bunch of songs, and he said, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, but what else you got? Yeah. So I sent him this demo of the song Hard Times. That was just a verse and a chorus that I'd had from a few years ago. Oh, okay. And he fell in love with it. So he's like, why don't you come over? And we went over to his place, and we finished it. We co-wrote it, and it was a really, really great collaborative effort.
Had you done that process before, taking a song that I guess you had started, but wasn't fully done, wasn't fully conceptualized? Had you done much collaboration in that regard before, and had you kind of taken a song to be finished with someone like that before?
Yeah, I feel like I have. The whole point, I think, especially being a solo artist, you can get stuck in your own ways really easily. Yeah. Right? So when you come to conceptualizing a song, especially when it doesn't happen, you can put it on the back burner for a few years. Sometimes you just need that catalyst, right? Yeah. Someone to be like, this song is great. Like, let's really find the meaning of it, and let's finish this thing up,
With the kind of the seed of that song, the verse, the chorus, like that you had, having been done, you said, at least a couple years ago or a while ago now. What did it mean? Something else coming to it 2 years later? Did you even remember kind of what inspired it in the first place?
Yeah, well, I think the good thing about Hard Times as a song is I think it's a very universal feeling. Yeah. And not only given what's happening in the world today or what was happening in the world a few years ago, where I was at in my life, like I was, I guess, a lot younger than I am now. Not that I'm old now, but just in a different point of life. I think that it doesn't matter where you are in your life, like whether you're 10 years old or whether you're, a senior citizen, you can find yourself somewhere in there because everyone's been there. It doesn't matter how relative it is, right? Everyone gets hard times, and it's really, the song's about how you get through it. Mm-hmm. How do you push through to the next point? And how do you stay in that mind state,
This collaboration, or I guess just the sense of having John Angus produce the song, is this part of a larger project, an EP, an LP, or was this really just kind of a one-off thing and kind of see where it goes if it goes somewhere from here?
For sure. So I think that I'm going to release an EP, but I guess the underlying concept of it is that I didn't want to work with one person. Yeah. So what I did in the beginning was I had a group of demos, and then I put them all in a folder, and I sent that same folder to like 5 different producers. Okay. And the funniest part about it is that not one producer picked the same song that they wanted to work on. What are the chances? Right? Wow. Yeah, so it worked out even better. So I think that I'm going to release something that's going to look more like a collection. Interesting, yeah. As far as whether it's going to be an album or an EP, I can't really speak to that now, but probably for next year.
Do you want to keep it cohesive in any way, or do you want it to, I guess, sound like the natural like the assumption would be something like that? Would it be 5 songs with 5 different sonic feels? Then again, maybe not, because obviously you're at the center of all 5 of them. But do you want them? Is your intention to still have it sound like a cohesive project in the end, or I guess is that less of a concern?
Yeah, I don't think it's as much of a concern. I think that at this point, if you're going to do a collection, just given the nature of the project, I think that you really just, the only thing I'm really concerned about is serving the song properly. Yeah. Like sonically, if you record something in a different location, already it's going to sound different, right? Mm-hmm. But I just want it to sound honest and true to the song, whatever that may be.
With your, I believe it's debut EP, For No One in Particular, which came out in 2015, having been through that experience, because for any artist that's releasing their debut EP, LP, whatever it is, there is going to be a lot to learn. It's all new, the studio experience, even the marketing experience, the launching of an album, everything that goes with it. Having been through that cycle once, is there things that you're taking from it that you want to repeat, that you want to do differently? Essentially, what lessons have you taken from that first album cycle into this one?
Mm-hmm. No, I love For No One in particular. Still to this day, I think there were some great songs on that. And it'll always be a part of, like when you think of Luke Austin, it'll always be the beginning. But I'd like to think that I can move forward from there, keep writing better songs and just keep writing songs that mean something to me, just like those songs did when I recorded that album, and just, move forward in a good way.
Just out of curiosity, because For No One in particular was credited to Luke Austin Band. I believe the new song Hard Times is just Luke Austin. Is that just semantics, or are you working more as a solo artist now?
Yeah, I think I'm working more as a solo artist now than I used to be. I used to have a really great group of guys around me, and since then they've all continued on to do really great things. And I still travel with the band and everything, and I still do like to collaborate. But as far as it doesn't really change much between Luke Austin Band or Luke Austin. It's still just keeping it fun and good.
We were talking about John Angus, but of course, even in your young career, you've worked with a couple very prominent producers in Vance, Powell, and Alex Bonefant. And I'm always curious. I know this is a question that's come up a number of times, so I don't want to kind of rehash the question you've gotten many times. But one thing I'm kind of curious about is, when you're a young artist like that, working on your first album, and you're working with people who have won Grammys and such, is it obviously the positives in that are pretty obvious? But is there a difficulty if you're a young artist saying no to ideas, or just being able to keep it your vision when you have when you're working with someone that's so prominent and you maybe don't have the confidence as a young artist to say no to? I don't know if that is the case. Maybe I'm projecting, but I'm just curious what that. If there is a downside in that regard to working with such a, big name producer as a new artist.
Mm-hmm. When I went and recorded with Vance, and that's Vance Powell in Nashville, we just got it right out of the way. His Grammy was on the wall. I went and picked it up. It was before we did any work or anything. I was just like, okay, it's over. And it was a big icebreaker. Yeah. But other than that, no. I'd like to think that as an artist, you're very unique, right? Your contribution to the overall spectrum, I wouldn't say, what I would be doing and what Jack White would be doing would be totally separate, right? And if there was a young Jack White, he would be very stuck in his ways, right? But I think that these producers agreed to work with me because they saw something that they could refine, something that they could contribute to the sound that I was already working on. So other than that, it's never, I don't know how to say it. It's always positive in the studio. It's like, this may work, let's try it. Always be open to new things. And that's when those guys are around, you just try and learn as much as possible. Yeah.
One of the things that I find interesting about what you're doing right now at this stage in your career is that, from what I understand, you're still fully independent as far as, you're working as your own agent, your own manager. At things like Canadian Music Week, Breakout West, those types of industry conferences, one of the regular questions you're always hearing musicians ask is when and where do I find a manager and agent? When's the right time to be looking for a manager and agent and such? I find it interesting that you're at a stage of your career what I would have thought most artists would now have one. I'm wondering why you've made that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I'm really looking for the right team. As it is right now, I've done really well for myself. I've managed to get across the country twice on tour, and I've had partnerships with multiple charities and brands. Jim Beam was a great partnership. And I don't mind actually doing the business side. I think it's really interesting, and I like, really having control of everything.
You've done some outstanding tours. You mentioned the Jim Beam partnership. A number of things that typically would have fallen into, I guess, the job description as one of those agent manager, whichever. Which is why I'm like, wow, you're doing such a good job of it yourself. I just wonder if it was just you're essentially just at this stage, I don't need one, I can do it, maybe save the commission, know what I mean? Essentially, maybe you have sought it out and just haven't found the right fit, I'm not sure. But I didn't mean for it to sound negative if that's how it came across.
No, it's not negative. In this industry, it's very tough. There's to get the right team because there's so few of the right guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, men, women, whatever. There's a lot of powerful people in the industry. But I think that it's all about just rating for the right time and place that it works in like a symbiotic way for both people. And at this point in my career, I think I'm doing fine, just managing myself and booking my own tours and really just trying to have fun with it, right? So down the road, if it keeps growing and stuff and I won't be able to do that, then I'll absolutely be looking for those types of people. But in the meantime, not that I'm not open to any conversation that comes along, but with the internet and such, you can manage pretty well by yourself.
With Canadian Musician, because you mentioned that Jim Beam sponsorship, I know it's not new news, but I'm always like with Canadian Musician, we're always talking about I guess the various business possibilities for artists, and sponsorships is one thing we've talked about, and that seems to increasingly come up in the industry. I'm just curious of how that came about for you and how it worked, what was the nature of the sponsorship, and how did you find it in the end?
For sure. So that actually came through a friend of mine, like a friend of a friend who was working on a press campaign for Jim Beam, and they were looking to partner with indie bands. Yeah. And I guess, I was pitched to them, and they liked what I was doing, and they liked the look and everything. So they approached me, and they're like, we're doing these tours. Would you like to be, represent our brand? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was great, so we talked over the logistics, and everything works. But I have a new partnership.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big one.
Okay.
So for the for this these upcoming releases, because I always team up with a charity. Yeah, it's Time Raiser. Okay, perfect.
Good segue.
You've been you guys. I wasn't sure if you'd been informed. So for Time Raiser, I actually got invited from a friend. He's like, come to this event. I'm helping out through TIFF. This organization called Time Raiser. Just come. I was like, okay. So I came, and it was like this art gallery, and I was really like totally thrown off by the whole experience because you couldn't actually buy any of the art, but you had to volunteer all your volunteer hours, right? And people were volunteering up to 150 hours for the painting that really spoke to them. The piece of art that they just wanted to have, right? And I thought, like, what a great forward initiative this is. Like in the past, I'd teamed up with charities and more of a you can take a percentage of my sales kind of thing, and I'll just like, hopefully the money will do great things. Yeah. But this was this was like a thought, right? It was like a catalyst to be like, it could start people on the right track, right? So I called them, and we talked over the logistics, and I will be the first musical partnership with Time Raiser, which will be great, which means that I'm the first artist to give away my music for volunteer hours.
How's that going to, how are the logistics of that going to work? How are you going to know that people volunteered? Is there like a price? Is there a price as far as 20 hours equals you get the album? How does it work like that?
So we're still working out the logistics. It's still early, but we're going to do almost like an advanced pre-release for an EP that I would have coming out in January or February, like early next year, in which basically at any point you can volunteer X amount of hours to get to basically pre-order the EP, plus some exclusive content that I'm going to throw in, for sure. So I think it'll be cool. It's never been done before, so we'll see what happens. And
Who started Time Raiser? Where did it come from? Like, it is a really, really interesting concept and a unique one.
For sure. I think it started as a federal government initiative, and since has been actually I don't know. But I think it started as a government initiative, and they did a big thing for Canada 150. Yeah. They hosted parties in every major city, and in hopes to gather as many volunteer hours as you want. And it's not like you have to. They have approved charities. Yeah. It's whatever you're passionate about, right?
Very cool.
For sure.
Nice, man. And so you said the 5-song. Is it going to be 5-song EP, or did I? Okay. Well, EP.
Didn't say anything.
I recall where I took that from is because you said you sent 5 songs, I think, to 5 different producers. So that's where I got the 5 from. Okay. But maybe I was just being presumptuous and assuming that would then mean it was a 5-song EP.
Maybe. It could be. There you go. That actually makes a lot of sense. You can see why
that was my logic. That was the wheels turning. But anyway, so you said January, February-ish, the EP is, that's the plan at least right now?
Early 2018, for sure.
As far as touring between now and then, what's the plans in that regard?
Yeah, so we're hitting the road again with a new band, and starts this Saturday at the Horseshoe Tavern for the Hard Times album release, or single release.
Yeah.
And then, we have like 8 or 9 other dates around Ontario that'll be supporting the Hard Times release, and then gearing up for the next single release.
Cool. Since you brought it up, just want to tag on. You say it's a new band. Who are the guys you're going to be playing with, and the guys you knew? How'd you find them?
We just met through the scene, like everyone kind of knows each other, and so I have a really great new group of guys. It's very new. Jack Lemaire is going to be playing bass for me. He's really talented. He's a Humber grad. And my new drummer's name's Nicholas Otway. He's from Trinidad. Very talented drummer. And I have a new keyboard synth player, a guy named David McNeese. And
Is it bringing a different sound to the old songs, or are you guys trying to kind of keep it to the record?
For sure. So I'm actually not trying to, in regards to moving forward, I actually don't really want to play the old songs as much.
Yeah.
I think that in order to achieve like a new sound, you really need to like use it as a launch point.
Yeah.
And so we'll be playing we'll play Long Road Home, and we'll play Old Friend, and like some of like the bigger ones that I guess people would like to sing along to.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think we're gonna move on to a new sound and really try and keep it that way.
Cool. Well, I'm interested to hear it, man, and hope to see the band. But thanks a lot. I've enjoyed this conversation. Thanks a lot for just making the time, man.
For sure.
Cheers.
Cheers.